Where is your creative and business magic, and how do you tap into it? Stay tuned and find out.
Welcome.
Okay, here's the question.
Serious?
How are we dark horses? You know, the ones everyone is betting against, the ones they don't expect to win, place, or even show on the track, and they'll even laugh on us when we talk about trying. How do we show the world our greatness and triumph?
Come on.
Well, that's the question, and this podcast will give you the answers.
Let's go.
This is The Dark Horse Entrepreneur. My name is Tracy Brinkman.
And push it out.
What is up? What is up? What the hell is up, my dark horse friends and family? Welcome back to your weekly dose of creative purpose and minimum viable product learning. I'm your dark horse host, Tracy Brinkman, and you, well, that, my friend, is infinitely more important. You are a driven entrepreneur or one in the making. Either way, you are here because you're ready to start, restart, kickstart, and just start leveling up with some great marketing, personal, or business results in order to build that beautiful business of yours into the empire it absolutely deserves to be. And man, we got another big episode today. Today, Jason Sherman is going to be sharing about creativity, getting out there and helping that one person. He's also going to ask us, what is our call to action, and reminds us why we should start with our MVP, that minimum viable product first. Plus, I'm going to let you in on next week's guest, who's been featured in Fox as one of the 21 entrepreneurs that we need to know in 2021. But before we kick this off, I know you've been getting value from these episodes, and you want to keep getting value from these episodes, so please go on down there, hit that subscribe button. While you're there, that's right, leave us a 5-star rating, drop us some kind words in the reviews, some ideas, some content you'd like to hear more about, maybe someone you'd like to get us see us get on the show and interview them. These subscribes, ratings, and reviews, they tell the podcast platforms that you are getting that value, so they lift us up a little bit in the algorithms so that we can reach more driven entrepreneurs just like yourself. So please take a moment, show the love, and help spread the word. All right, enough of all that. As per usual, the Dark Horse Corrals are chock full of personal, business, and marketing GOLD spilling from every corner of the Dark Horse HQ. So let's get to the starting gates and go. All right, my Dark Horse friends and family, today's guest is Jason Sherman. Now, Jason is a successful entrepreneur, award-winning filmmaker, published author, tech startup expert, and a classically trained violinist, and a journalist. He's been featured in several media outlets, including the Wall Street Journal, USA Today, The Verge, ABC News, and was a featured speaker on Fox Emmy Award-winning futurist TV show Exploration Earth 2050. Now, Jason's methodologies on entrepreneurship and those data-driven decisions are his main source of education to those he helps all around the world. His startup book, Strap On Your Boots, is the culmination of his life's work in helping other entrepreneurs succeed. He also has a podcast by the same name. But, I'm going to shut up here. I've probably already told too much of his story already. Got to leave a little something for Jason to share with you. Jason, welcome to the Dark Horse Entrepreneur, man.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it, man.
Absolutely. I'm glad to have you aboard. Like I was just telling you, first thing I want to do is I just want to step back from the mic, let you tell your story. Obviously, you've got a lot under your belt already. So, tell us the good, the bad, the ugly, and why you like doing what you do so much.
Man, that's a great way to put it. And man, it's been a wild ride. Sometimes I think to myself, if the world ended tomorrow, the past year felt like the apocalypse, right? We're all wearing our Mad Max outfits. But if the world truly ended, would I be satisfied? And I think I would be. I feel like I've done, everything I set out to do. I've tried every kind of industry that's out there. And I don't know what it is about the creative juices that have been flowing through me my whole life, but it's really been about being as creative as possible, following my passions. And if it was something that was turning into a job, and it was more about the money, that's when I started to want, I started to get kind of bored with it. And I'm like, okay, I'm earning good money from this, but I'm not enjoying it. I don't know what it is about the things that don't make money that make me happy. So yeah, over the years, some things have been successful and some things haven't been. Some things have been financially rewarding and some things have been more, heartfelt, rewarding, fulfillment of my life's goals. And I think I chose a good mix and match of those things to keep me going over the years to the point where I found out that I could now help people do the same thing. on low budgets, which is a big thing because a lot of entrepreneurs don't have the money to start a business.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I got to this point is I realized, okay, I can now help other people do what I do without these millionaire gurus out there saying, oh, you can do what I did, which is BS because, they had a real estate father or they had, somebody got a trust fund or whatever. So, I just feel like it's unrealistic what they're selling out there.
And that's a great point. And I had a chat with a guest not too long ago, actually a friend of mine, Zach Babcock, and he came out 5 years in prison and decided, well, obviously he was a little crippled by the job market, given his past experience. So he steps out, and now he's out there rubbing elbows with some of those millionaires via his podcast and the business that he's built because he really had no other choice. He had to make it work, right? Where, like to your point, some of those gurus are out there going, "Hey, you can do this too," and I'm like, well, I don't know if I could do it your way because I've watched you for a decade or so, and I still couldn't do that.
Not only that, but you bring up a good point. They've been out there pushing these books and these courses for years. Why? If they're millionaires, dude, go enjoy your life.
Yeah.
Stop pushing your, are you really a millionaire now is what I wonder to myself. A lot of people who push courses and books and whatnot, people like me, for example, who are not millionaires, but they are comfortable enough that they can now start helping people. Mm-hmm. And I don't expect to make millions off of my course or my book. It's very unlikely. It's very difficult to do that. And so I look at it from the perspective of every single person who does read my book or does my course, I'm helping one more person,
right,
who otherwise is getting fooled by these gurus. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
And like you said, I've been through a lot. I've made movies. I've built tech platforms. I've been a journalist. I've been on TV shows. Like I've done all these different things that have shown me the world from the viewpoint of an entrepreneur more than most people. So I know I have a really good kind of balancing act on what works well and what doesn't work well. And I've been through so many different learning experiences, and I've made a lot of mistakes and a lot of successes that I know what doesn't work and what does work.
Sure. And before we get into some of those nuts and bolts, I wanted to dig in a little bit on the creative juices. And for those that can't see this right now, behind Jason, he has this cool thing hanging on his wall, this fluid music note staff, and he's got some artwork back there that's very, it speaks to your creativity. Where in your space do you find you're the most creative today, or maybe it was different 10 years ago or whatever?
Yeah, that's a phenomenal question, because I was just recently thinking about this after someone said to me, why do you do what you do? Why, like, for example, right now I'm working on a documentary. Mm-hmm. Why are you doing this? And the word creative, create is in there, right? And
right.
I feel the most happy when I'm creating something.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm designing something, or if I'm editing a movie, or if I'm filming a movie, or if I'm creating an app, or if I'm helping someone create a product, if I'm writing a story, a screenplay, or if I'm working on a podcast episode, whatever it is, I feel so happy when I'm creating something, because I feel as though it's something new, it's something exciting, it's something that no one's seen before. And when we talk about a documentary, for example, a movie, it's one of the different things that I do. I feel like it's something that comes to you, right? It's kind of a call to action that you see out in the world, that something either bad is happening or something that you need to educate the public.
Sure.
And nobody's doing it. No one is calling out that subject. Nobody is calling out that problem. And it falls into my lap, and I say, well, I guess I'm the person that's going to tell that story.
Sure.
A little bit of serendipity.
Yeah. And I think it's kind of cool. I'm a big fan of creativity. I think what I really like about it is that really, and you kind of called it, it's that create. You're pulling something out of the ether, and through the work that you do, or through the guidance that you give of a team, you're creating something, be it, a piece of music, a piece of art, a podcast, or a documentary. I like that whole, hey, I'm taking something from air to concept to execution to reality. And you're like, yeah, I did that.
It's
right?
Magic. It's magic. Isn't it? You're pulling it out of thin air.
That's where the real magicians. I think entrepreneurs are really the real magicians, right? They really literally create something out of nothing.
It's very difficult to do.
Yes.
And not everybody can do it. Not everybody has those creative juices in their DNA, and they're content with their 9 to 5 job. God bless them. They're keeping the world running. We need people that are just chugging along. But then there's people like us who like to push the boundaries, and we can't be confined in that 9 to 5 structure. We work in a 24-hour structure where when things come to our heads, we put them out there.
Yeah. Right. So let's just pivot right there into, okay, so we got the entrepreneur, maybe he's listening to us right now. He's got this idea, this concept. I'm like, oh, they're talking about creating, man. I'm totally vibing with them, but they haven't taken the time to maybe, I don't know, validate their idea. Right. Is there a process or a method that you could guide someone on that to validating and maybe even finding who their tribe is, their audience?
Right. And you just hit the nail on the head. That's the number one reason why entrepreneurs fail, is because they don't validate their concept. I mean, let me ask you, Tracy, how many times have you had someone come to you and say, hey, man, I have the next $1 billion idea? I mean, how many times do people say that out loud and they have their horse blinders on? So they don't care if the train's going to fall off the tracks. They're just going to go full steam ahead and they're going to try everything they can. But before you jump on a train, before you build a train, how about trying to skateboard? Right? Let's make the skateboard work first.
Yeah.
If you can make a simple piece of wood with 4 wheels move, and then people also try that skateboard and they jump on and they don't fall off, or they give you feedback about it, and now you can make a scooter, and then you can make a bicycle, and then you can make a car, and then you can make a train, right? So you got to go through that process of validating the initial, what I call an MVP. It's out there, the minimum viable product, right? You have to, before you even get into building an MVP or any kind of prototype, you need to validate the fact that people want what it is you're about to build in the first place. And the most simplistic way of doing this is by creating a free survey, a very quick 5-question survey. Give it out to friends and family, send it out on social media, definitely get strangers to answer it. Try to get 100 answers, if not, so you can get a good gauge of 100%. Sure. And then you'll have some answers, right? Use the data to make your decisions on what you should be building. Maybe you shouldn't be building it. Good example is on Shark Tank. You see a lot of entrepreneurs coming in there with sometimes bad ideas, and they spent like hundreds of thousands of dollars on these bad ideas. And the sharks are like, Mr. Wonderful says, take it out back in the barn and shoot it. Right. So you shouldn't have built that. You should have known that people didn't want that product. So, of course you can avoid this problem by making a survey, maybe designing some mock-ups before building an app. Maybe if you're going to build a physical widget, get a 3D printer or a place that has a 3D printer, build one, right? Take it out into the streets and show people, say, what do you think of this product? Let them hold it in their hands. Let them see how they use it. See if they like holding it, or if it's like too bulky or too clunky. Right. So there's a lot of different things you can do, but definitely surveys and getting feedback, and then showing people something before you build it. That's the number one thing you should be doing.
I really like that idea of having a 3D printers. The advent of those is just huge for the entrepreneurs out there, because I could be holding something going, wow, if it was just X, whatever X is, right? It would feel much better in my hand, that tactile. I remember I worked with a company that did high-end indoor and outdoor home goods, furniture, lights, the whole 9 yards. And they were wise enough to bring in a set of their core clientele, right? Housewives. They were high-end folks. So these are folks that had, $500,000 homes and above, and, bringing them in for a couple of days, and just sharing their ideas of, hey, we bought this product and it was great. Well, except, these 2 or 3 things. And then once the discussion really got rocking and rolling, they were like, well, what about this? Ideas started coming up that, even their engineering staff would be like, we never thought of that. Well, yeah, so, and then they would help them kind of, hey, well, let's take this. There was one cool thing. We all know what those hurricane lamps, right? You got the nice thing. You put the candle down inside there. Pretty basic. Guy says, well, what about one that was really kind of shaped like a pineapple? Because the pineapple whole theme was all through his house. Oh, that's kind of a cool idea. Getting the glass to do that was challenging, but they ended up engineering it, creating it, and it became one of the number one sellers because they listened to somebody and that feedback from their audience.
You just described also the oldest trick in the book, which is the TV show focus groups, right?
Yeah.
That's what they would do. They'd stick like 20 people in a room, give them pizza and coffee, and they'd have them show the TV show, and then they would ask them for feedback. And then what you said, right? They would say, well, what if the main character was a lesbian or something? You know what I mean? So they would they would switch it up, and then, now I would like the show. You know what I mean? So like,
absolutely,
that's kind of how take what works. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And sometimes, like you said, that MVP is going, let's go right to it. I know I just did an episode, I think I just dropped it last Friday, as a matter of fact, which comes first, the product or the audience, right? And I think the audience really is going to be first. So go to that audience, ask the questions like you were saying, get that feedback. And now you're either going to be saying, wow, I'm glad I didn't waste all the time and money creating that product that nobody would buy.
Exactly. And how easy is it to put up like 2 landing pages and do some A/B testing for some audiences, maybe pay $50 in ads and just figure out if people want your damn product in the first place. Right. I mean, it's not that difficult to do. And once you have that audience, guess what? You got 100 email addresses or Facebook group. And you can now say, well, should the product be pink, or should the app not have a camera ability, or, should this thing do this? Like you said, XYZ. So it's better to ask the market what they want versus you thinking that you know what the market wants and then failing miserably.
Right. And then the odds of those folks, if nobody else, just those folks that you've been engaged with of buying it, have just shot through the roof to like, hey, I helped create that. Right. So they're going to buy it, and then they're going to tell their friends and so forth and so on.
And that's how you get pre-orders, and that's how you get Kickstarter campaigns going. And that's the way to do it.
We're here just creating businesses, y'all.
Exactly. One step at a time.
I think the one thing I can hear somebody out there in audience going, yeah, but what if my idea is so unique?
You're now listening to the Dark Horse Entrepreneur Podcast.
Let's say the iPod or the iPhone of yesteryear, right? When it first came to the market, everyone's like, what? I don't need that. Until someone took the simple idea, and Steve Jobs, we all know, 10,000 songs in your pocket. Okay, I get it, right? It's if someone is sitting on their idea going, my idea is the next iPhone, okay, maybe it is. Do you have any advice for them?
Absolutely. And the reason why not only is it going to be difficult for people to have that $1 billion idea, but there have been so many things invented, right? I mean, we're going to space. We have the internet. We have smartphones. I mean, we're now passing thresholds of the singularity with artificial intelligence and augmented reality. And, it's just really getting out there with sci-fi type of stuff happening. So you really need to find a pain point in the world, number one, that is so immense that your solution is going to be just revolutionary. It's going to change. It's going to be a paradigm shift. It can't just be like, oh, this app does this. You just can't do that anymore. It's just not big enough. Yeah. So you got to find a pain point, number one. So you can do it. But here's the thing. Ideas are a dime a dozen. Okay. Mm-hmm. So it has to be all about execution. You have to not only have the best of the best team to execute, you have to have the patience, because it's going to take you years of chugging along and really grinding it out, because this is one of the biggest failures from startups. And I've talked to entrepreneurs a million times who say, oh yeah, my ideas, I'm going to, they're already talking numbers. I'm going to have $10 million funding in 1 year after building this thing. And I'm like, this isn't Silicon Valley 20 years ago. Yeah. They're not going to throw money at the wall and watch it stick.
Right.
So you're going to have to grind this out for 2 to 4 years before you get around the funding. Mm-hmm. You can do family and friends. So I always tell people, look, your best bet is build as much as you can on your own, whatever it is. 3D printed product, prototype for your app. If it's a movie, it's even easier nowadays with digital cameras. And do as much as you can to show the public what you're capable of. And then you'll attract people who are interested in what it is you're doing. As an example, from some of the technology platforms that I built in the past. I would build a prototype. I'd learn how to program enough to build a prototype that functioned. Mm-hmm. And then I would get programmers who I would meet at events and say, hey, what do you think of my app? And they would say, oh, it's pretty cool. I like it. I think it would be better if it could do this, this, and this. And then I'm like, okay, I got them in. So how do you want to help me build that?
Right.
Oh, yeah, sure. For, X amount % equity. Or I'd find a woman who liked the app idea and wanted to help me market it because she saw potential.
Yep.
So again, if you can show somebody the vision or the potential of what your product can do, and they're interested in that industry or that idea, you can get them involved to help you execute the idea. And that's really all it is really execution. If it's poor execution, like look at Quibi. Quibi is a perfect example of a multi-billion-dollar app that was funded. Jeffrey Katzenberg and the ex-CEO of Facebook, Sheryl Sandberg, they teamed up to make this like short-form video app because they thought it was going to be able to crush Netflix and Hulu and whatnot. And after a couple of months, I don't even think it even launched. I think like a couple of months in, they just crashed and burned. It's poor execution. Poor execution, right? Yeah. Even billions of dollars being backed by Walmart and whoever else that was backing them, they still failed. Wow. So it's a lesson. Quibi is a lesson for all entrepreneurs.
Absolutely. 100%. Wow. That was gold right there. All right. So you've got the book. You've mentioned it a couple of times. I know you have a course. You got the podcast. And this all seems to be wrapped up in this bootstrap, right?
Yeah, it's definitely a package. They all go together. And it all started with the book, Strap On Your Boots, because I was asked by some people that I was working with to keep giving them information, so I was typing up emails and typing up kind of Google Docs, and I was just getting tired of it. So I put it all into a book. And I started giving the book out to entrepreneurs, and it was helping them. And some contacts at universities like UPenn's Wharton School, Temple, Drexel, all these different like really awesome schools said, hey, we want to use this for our entrepreneurship program. Can you make a course? So I did Startup Essentials. I started teaching that workshop course, whatever you want to call it, at these universities, and they were doing so much better. Like they were saving time, they were saving money. And I realized, okay, this stuff is working. So I put it online, and the podcast I came out with a couple of years ago was kind of an intermediary. It's smaller tidbits that go in between the book and the course. So it's more daily kind of, and it's also updated as to, things change, my YouTube channel, same thing. So all of it kind of gets put together and it all works. So I get reached out by people every day about how much it's helping them, and it's realistic, right? The key is here. It's realistic. It's from examples that I've used in my daily work life. And it's not just work, Tracy. It also has to do with the mindset, like doing yoga and meditation and being healthy and exercising, right? I do all of those things. And if you don't do those things and you just want to keep, like Gary Vee always says, you hustle, hustle, hustle. No. You don't have to hustle, hustle, hustle. You have to work hard, but you have to take care of yourself too. Yeah. And that's very important. If you don't take care of yourself, you're going to get burned out. You're going to be miserable. It's not going to work. Your company's going to go bankrupt. Like you need to also take a step back and relax.
I mean, I know all the folks I've been lucky enough to bring onto this show, even if they have that hustle, hustle, hustle mentality, they have that also, I need to have my space. All of them have some sort of morning routine or evening routine in me time. Even if it's just, 15 minutes where they go in the backyard and, play with the dog or, sit in the home, whatever it is for them that works, that is that relaxing, centering moment. That's huge. And then then they're back at it, hustle, hustle, hustle. But yeah, you're right. It's that huge balance that goes into both sides.
Absolutely.
All right. So you mentioned the gurus earlier. So I gotta bring this back. So
am I going to get in trouble for this?
No. So obviously you have some winning strategies and methodologies in your course and your book, and you're even sharing updates via your podcast, which I think is an awesome tactic for that right here. That way I don't have to keep doing the revised version of the book. I'm just like, here's the update here in the podcast.
Exactly.
How does that fare against the quote? Yeah, I'm doing the air quotes here, gurus and the messages they're putting out?
That's a great question that goes back years, because I was one of those entrepreneurs who wanted to learn from the gurus. Mm-hmm. So I read The Rich Dad, Poor Dad, The 4-Hour Work Week, and all the other books you can think of that, I've read probably 10 books. And the take home that I got from those books was that you too can do what they did if you were wealthy in the 90s and were able to buy a lot of real estate, or if you had a family member who had a thriving business that you took over and helped make it bigger, or if you had a friend or family member who believed in you and gave you $1 million for an idea that was on a piece of paper that you didn't build. So there's a lot of these factors involved. Some of it's luck. I mean, I remember somebody in a book mentioning they sold an algorithm for sports betting, something or other, and it got sold for, millions of dollars. I mean, look, the chances of us doing that and then having 20 million bucks to fund our operations for the next 30 years, not even small, slim to none. Okay.
Yeah.
It's like, it's just not going to happen. You're better off buying lottery tickets. So, it comes down to I just don't believe them because I have yet to read one book that I could replicate. The key word here is replicate.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot, it's, what it's like. Here's how I give you an analogy. You buy a cake box at the store and you bring that cake box back home and you put it into the bowl and you mix it with the egg and the oil and you put it in the oven and you make a cake. That's like my book and my course. You can actually take the recipe and make the cake and it actually works. The other guys are expecting you to make a 5-course Michelin meal and they're not going to give you the ingredients.
Yes.
They don't give you the ingredients. Like here's how you make
cold sugar and
yeah, it's not going to happen, right? So at least in my case, I'm giving you the ingredients for the cake and you just have to put it together and build it and bake it. So
yeah,
that's where I got frustrated, Tracy.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there, and I've probably read all the books you have, and we'll use one that you I think you mentioned there earlier. The 4-hour work week, right? Well, if you've read the book, and I'm not slighting him, right? It's a good book. I enjoyed reading it. I've read it twice. Or actually, read it once and listened to it a second time. I'm a big Audible fan. But if you think about it, the core of the book is outsourcing. That's it. It's a lesson in outsourcing. He just told it to you in a whole book and filled it with lots of great stories, but it's all about outsourcing at the end of the day. And
also outsourcing in a time where it was not really known.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like I've been outsourcing for years, but not everybody can do that, especially nowadays. It's difficult. You have to learn how to manage these teams overseas.
Mm-hmm. You
need to be able to do the work yourself first.
Yes.
Because if you don't do the work first, then you don't know what they're doing.
You can't train them.
Can't train them. So, and if I have to go back to one book where I can say it definitely helped me early on in my entrepreneurship career, it's The Lean Startup, right? I mean, that book definitely put things in the perspective of experimentation. Let's run these experiments. And I kind of use lean methodology in my day-to-day operation now. Mm-hmm. And it's kind of a core concept in my book as well. I just kind of tweaked it for my own specific tactics and my strategies that work for me. But doing the lean methodology definitely works because the less you do and the more information and feedback and data you get and the quicker you iterate, the more successful you're going to be. And that's really the key to any startup.
Right. That's money right there. It's funny you mentioned that is I got my teeth cut in corporate America in planning and marketing. And logistics planning specifically, right? And so there's a lot of, all right, we're going to just look at the data and modify the process, re-look at the data with the new process in place. And it's a rinse and repeat process. You just keep going through and through that. And then if you can take that same methodology into your marketing, well, then now your business is doing good and your marketing is doing good. But if you're not looking at the data and if you're not first building a process, right? And then tweaking that process where you find the bottlenecks or the holes or the fat. Hey, God, I'm doing way too much here. Let's trim that down to your point of being lean.
Yeah, and that's using the funnels, right? Finding what's blocking the funnel. Is it acquisition? Yep. Is it retention? Is it revenue? What's causing the problem, and then fixing it? Absolutely. And everyone's process will be different.
Yeah, and that's the other piece of it is just because it worked for Russell or John or Gary Vee, it doesn't mean if you could replicate it that it would work for you because you have a different idea, you have a different modality, it's a different time, et cetera, et cetera.
And that's why I feel like my package is so effective because it can work for literally any human being who uses the tools that I give you or the tactics or the strategies I give you. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. You could be starting a brick and mortar store and I still follow my steps and you will succeed. It's just a matter of following certain steps and applying them to your industry, right? That's really the key. That's really the key.
That's the magic right there, right?
Exactly.
All right. So you've got these great steps. So I'm going to ask you, all right, give my entrepreneurs listening right now let's say they're just starting off in their entrepreneurial journey. What's the number one thing you want them to walk away hearing from you today?
Wow, that's a wonderful way to end this thing. And I would say, if I was talking to myself as an entrepreneur first starting out, I'd say get ready to put yourself on a long journey. It's not going to be a quick overnight success. Make sure that what it is you're going to embark on is something interesting to you that's going to keep you passionate. Make sure that you're going to be happy doing it every single day. And above all, make sure that you learn as much as possible about the topic, the industry, the market, the space that you're about to enter, because you need to become an expert at everything about it, whether it's, the audience, the products or competitors, where you're going to be in 5 years, be able to iterate quickly. So if you need to change your idea or pivot, be ready to do that. And if there's a day where you are stressed out and you want to give up, and you just can't get past a wall or an obstacle, you can't raise the money, nobody wants to buy your product, nobody wants to help you, it doesn't matter. You learned so much getting to that point, and don't walk away thinking that you're a failure. Walk away thinking that you're that much better at being an entrepreneur and that you will not make the same mistakes twice. You're going to learn from them and you're going to push forward with something else, and that's going to succeed.
That's fire. That's it. See, it's not failure. It's feedback. You've heard me say that before here. All right. So the folks who want to learn more about Jason Sherman and Strap On Your Boots, the podcast, the book, the course, where are we sending them to?
jasonsherman.org. Everything is really on my website. The course, the book, the podcast. There's a free startup guide on there. It's called Startup Essentials Free Guide. Gives you about 2 pages worth of some gems that will really help you stay on the right path. It's kind of a cheat sheet to my book and my course.
Sweet. All right.
That's available there.
We'll definitely get all those linked up in the show notes so folks can just click right on through and check you out.
Cool.
Jason, I definitely appreciate you coming in and hanging out with us, man.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. This was a blast. It was awesome.
I love the good conversations. You know that.
Me too.
All right, man.
All right.
All right, there you have it, my Dark Horse friends and family. Jason Sherman dropping creative MVP bombs on us today. What ideas did you walk away with? Let me share the 4 that hit me today. Thought number 1, be more creative. I mean, right out of the gate, Jason reminded us that we need to be more creative. Jason is at his happiest when he's creating. How about you? I know I love it when I'm creating. And see, that for him isn't always about being the financial reward. I mean, sometimes it was. Other times it was more about that heartfelt reward. Jason felt that he was lucky enough during the course of his life to have chosen a great mix and match of both to keep him moving forward. How goes your creative side? I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into this on Wednesday's episode 196, Ramping Up Your Creativity. Thought number 2, get out there and help one person. Jason reminded us again that it's not just about the money. I mean, he said it himself. He's not a millionaire. He's comfortable, and that's enough. He puts his content out there in the hopes that one more person that reads his book or one more person that takes his course will be helped by his message and his content to lift themselves up to the levels that they desire and deserve. I want to dig a little bit deeper on this one on Friday in episode 197, the best ways to help others and yourself. Thought number 3, what is your call to action? Now, Jason reminds us that he and we tend to be at our most creative when we are working on that thing that comes to us, right? Whether it came to us in the middle of the night as an epiphany or in the shower or just that aha moment, right? We see a hole in the market and we want to fill it. We see a wrong being done and we want to right it. I've also come to realize that our call to action encompasses more than just our careers or our business ventures. Living our call to action means living intentionally, engaging in meaningful and worthwhile adventures both in and outside of work. You see, when we contribute to those around us in ways that we feel true to us, we're able to feel a deep sense of contentment and fulfillment that's really hard to find anywhere else. And then finally, thought number 4, build your MVP. Yeah, that's right. Build that skateboard before you build the dream train. I think Jason gave such a great analogy where it comes to validating your idea and slowly leveling up your idea to its ultimate destination, right? You have to, if you have your idea of the next great train, plane, or automobile, then start by building that skateboard first, then move on to the scooter and to the bicycle and so on, building your audience and following along the way. I mean, do you think the odds of your ultimate train idea being a raving success when you finally do introduce it to them, you think it's going to go through the roof? Yeah, of course it will. Now, maybe not all of your fans, but far more and with far less effort than if you risk jumping right out there into the train idea. I mean, think about it. You don't even have the tracks laid out yet. So get your vision, get those surveys out there, get those mock-ups out there, get those first samples out there and learn from the very people that you're looking to serve, to attract them to you, to serve them, and they will ever be in your favor and ever on your side. All right, my Dark Horse friends and family, what inspiring tips or thoughts resonated with you? Whatever they were, yeah, that's right. You gotta take some time today. You want to put them into action. Take some time to write them down. And then when you have a moment to yourself, right, go over those thoughts or ideas and say, how am I going to use those? And then get out there, run your race, get your results with those inspiring tips and ideas that resonated with you. And then let me hear about them. Seriously, email me at tracy@darkhorseschooling.com. Share the tips or ideas you came away with, how you put them into action, and what results you gained from them. And I'll even bring you on the show and let you share it with the audience. Now, next week, our interview episode guest is going to be Khalid Maziad. Now, Khalid is not just another one of those coaches. Now, Khalid is a speaker that helps coaches clearly articulate their value and confidently craft and present a $3,000 plus no-brainer offer using the psychology of the next step. Right now, I know you want to keep getting all those valuable tips and these inspirational stories from guys like Khalid and Jason and everyone I'm lucky enough to bring on here. So like I mentioned earlier, please go on down there, hit that subscribe button. While you're there, drop us that 5-star rating and take a second. Drop us some kind words in the reviews. Heck, give me some constructive criticism. I'm good with that. Ask questions. I read every single one of the reviews, and I'd be happy to answer them here on the podcast or over in the Dark Horse Facebook group. So come on over there and join us there. And of course, do not keep all this entrepreneurial, GOLD, all to yourself. Share this podcast with entrepreneurs and business owners that you know will get value from it. And with that, I'm going to leave you as I always do. Think successfully and take action.
Thank you for listening to the Dark Horse Entrepreneur Podcast.
You know this.
Thanks for tuning in.
Check us out at www.darkhorseschooling.com.
All right.
My name is Tracy Brinkman.